How's it going, Giants fans? My name is Alex with my co-host here, Anthony Rovarro. And today I think it's time. That we had a discussion about Daniel Jones. He's proved enough over 5 weeks that he's definitely taken some steps in the right direction developmentally. He's obviously shown some growth. I want to discuss what Brian Dable, Mike Kafka have done to give him a better chance at succeeding. Now, Daniel Jones, of course, we know, has been a bit polarizing over the past couple of years, mainly because the coaching hasn't been very good. The offensive line hasn't been very good. The receivers have not been very good. A lot of negative variables playing a part in the equation of his development, and ultimately it set him back quite tremendously, quite significantly. And I think with better coaching, things could have looked different, and they're starting to look different over a very quick sample size, right? We're looking at 5 weeks here. Daniel Jones, in my opinion, I don't know about what you think, Anthony, or what you guys think. I would love to hear your comments in the YouTube section below. I think he looks like a different player. Like, this isn't the Daniel Jones that I saw last year. He's making smart decisions. He's being efficient with the football. He's not turning it over. He has no turnovers in his last 2 games. He has 1 turnover in his last 4 games, and that turnover came on an interception against Dallas when David Sills slipped at the end of the game, ended up becoming an interception. So, I'm not putting that on him. I'm pretty confident that DJ is going to continue to mount a pretty impressive developmental 2022 campaign. And with that being said, I want to discuss what the Giants are doing to get the most out of him and what exactly has changed from our perspective regarding his game and why he's playing better, because I think there are some key variables to discuss, Anthony. But before we dive into Daniel Jones, I want to hear what you have to say, of course. But how are you doing today, my friend?
I mean, I'm doing great, and I'm enjoying watching winning Giants football. 4-1 is such a good feeling. And honestly, our quarterback is doing what he can to get us there. I think Daniel Jones is playing pretty well this season. Statistically, not that great. He's not throwing a ton of touchdowns. He's not racking up all the yardage, but he's getting the Giants in those games, and he's winning them those games. He's getting them down into scoring position. And if they're running it in with Daniel Bellinger or Saquon Barkley, it's good enough for me, man. I think that Daniel Jones is doing what he has to do, and basically he's just managing the game. He's kind of doing what, you've seen Jimmy Garoppolo do in the past with the San Francisco 49ers, just keeping the game in check and not turning the ball over in a crazy way. He's playing winning football, basically. Daniel Jones is playing winning football. He's not turning the ball over. He's not losing the Giants games, and I'm impressed with his performance. I think we've seen tremendous growth. He's made some passes that are like, wow, that looked like Josh Allen for a second. I've seen him throw some dimes and some really hard, like, bullets to the sideline that you haven't seen Daniel Jones make in quite a while. So he's really taken his game to another level. Again, it's not showing up statistically in the stat sheets, in the box score, whatever, but he's running the offense. He's comfortable in the offense, and he's playing winning football by keeping the ball safe and getting those nasty yards with his legs. So I'm really impressed with Daniel Jones and the way that he's played throughout the first 5 weeks of the season, with the way that the coaching staff has developed him throughout the season. And I'm super excited to see how he finishes the year off and if he's able to ascend himself to franchise quarterback status.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see if he gets there, right? There's still a long way to go. There's still a lot of games left to play, and he's got to show continuous improvement. This can't be a situation where has a great game, has 2 bad games, has a mediocre game. You got to be consistent every week if you're an NFL quarterback. Of course, there's some leeway, but to be a franchise caliber quarterback, a guy we're willing to pay 20, 25 plus million to, you got to be like somewhat consistent. Like 80% of the time, you've got to be like a good quarterback, a good player. Otherwise, there's no chance you're winning a Super Bowl with a player that just doesn't show up sometimes. Like Kirk Cousins never winning a Super Bowl. Ryan Tannehill's never winning a Super Bowl. Daniel Jones has to be better than both of those guys. And one thing he has over both of them is his ability on the football. The Giants have really exercised that. They've really put a lot of value in how quickly he can turn a game on its head by using his legs. And, so far this season, Jones doesn't have that many touchdown passes. He only has 3 touchdown passes and an interception. What he does have is 2 rushing touchdowns. Against the Chicago Bears, have those 2 bootleg touchdowns. And he also has, I think, almost 200 rushing yards to go with it, and maybe a little bit more than that. So obviously that is a big step in the right direction for Daniel Jones. But here's the thing that really stands out to me regarding how the Giants are kind of getting him to perform better is they're getting him more time in the pocket, right? Traditionally, you saw last year, Jason Garrett, they kind of just run base level offensive schematics, and Daniel Jones would be kind of beat up. We saw that kind of against Dallas. They have such a tremendous pass rush. No matter what you do, they're going to beat your offensive tackles. But they've been using the play action specifically to open up those rollouts, those boots to the right side where he can check it down to the tight ends. He can get the, Bellinger involved. He can get the crossing routes, getting a little bit more depth between him and the line of scrimmage. And the thing about Daniel Jones is that he's actually a very accurate quarterback, right? Like he actually is a pretty damn accurate quarterback when he has time in the pocket. He's standing there alone. He doesn't miss many passes very often. He had that one that he sailed a little bit behind Darius Slayton. Some people say it was Slayton's fault. Some people say it was Daniel Jones's fault. It's really impossible to tell unless you're one of them and you know the route or you know what was maybe was supposed to be timed a little bit better. I think more so it was a chemistry thing. Like Darius Slayton hasn't been playing that much this season. And I think, you look at exactly that route specifically, maybe next week they hit that one, and they did hit it a couple times later on in the game where Slayton had 79 yards and 6 receptions. And with the cast that Daniel Jones currently has, it is pretty impressive that they're managing to score at such an efficient clip. Like we said yesterday, 58% conversion rate in the red zone, 44% last year. They ranked 13th in the NFL this year. And last year, they only ranked 32nd, I guess, last in the NFL. So you're seeing a massive improvement in that category. So he's making better decisions in the red zone. They're running the ball effectively. They're getting creative. Whereas last year they would just kind of throw up those fade routes and hope for the best. One of those like big plays that I saw this past weekend against the Green Bay Packers was first and goal on the 2-yard line. He rolls out to his right side. Sometimes in the past, we'd see him try to force that ball. He sails it over the end zone, says, I'm living to see another down. They score a touchdown on the next play. Those are the type of decisions that good quarterbacks make. They don't take unnecessary risk on first and goal when you have nothing to lose. You know what I mean? Everything to gain, nothing to lose. Daniel Jones has been extremely intelligent when it comes to protecting the football because they've given him more space to work with. They've rolled him out. They've schemed ways for him to stay open, quick throws. Those crossing routes to Slayton have been genius. Saquon Barkley's really opened up things in the running game. So, from your perspective, how important do you think the play action has been? Rolling him out on the bootlegs, Saquon Barkley, these impact kind of variables, how they all played into Daniel Jones taking a big step forward over the first 5 weeks.
So I do think that the play action has helped him quite a bit. Like I said earlier, the offensive scheme, he looks really comfortable in it, and it's doing a lot to get talent out of Daniel Jones. I will say the pass out of the back of the end zone, that's what I mean when I say playing winning football. Because if he throws that up into the end zone, up for grabs, and it gets picked off, that's playing losing football because that would be costly. That would have lost the New York Giants the game. But him throwing it out of the back of the end zone, living to see another down, the Giants scoring on that next down, that ultimately won them the game. That was the equalizing touchdown. And then they go down again and score, and they get the game-winning touchdown by Saquon Barkley. So that was really fantastic. And I think that when you take a look at the difference, night and day difference between Daniel Jones just a year or two ago, he's throwing that up for grabs in the middle of the end zone. But now he's throwing it out of the back of the end zone, living to see another down. And again, that's winning football. But in terms of the play action and the play calls that the Giants are giving Daniel Jones, I love the play action usage because, yes, it opens things up when he's healthy in the running game. He's got those bootlegs. It creates some space, gets the defense tricked. They go one way, he goes the other. That's really clever play calling on that end. But then, of course, when you're looking at the protection that he gets off of those play action passes, that it just creates a buffer, because it takes the defense a second. If they're getting into run defending stance and they start the snap off run defending, there's like a second there where they have to realize, oh, this isn't a rushing play. Let's now transition into pass rushing. And that little buffer has helped Daniel Jones tremendously. Just give him a second to work with. Now, he's not scanning the field the entire time, but he's at least getting set in the pocket because, he's doing the fake handoff and then he gets set in the pocket. But during that transitionary period, the Giants' offensive line is run blocking before transitioning into that pass protection, which is really, really beneficial to Daniel Jones because sometimes he'll stand in the pocket, it'll be shotgun, and he's sacked within 2 seconds because the pass rush is instantly there. But that doesn't happen when you do the play action. There is that buffer. There is that little time period where everyone's just trying to figure out what happened on the play action, and it gives Daniel Jones a little bit more time to get comfortable in the pocket, to scan the field, and deliver those passes. So the heavy usage of play action is one of my favorite parts of the New York Giants offense this season. I think Mike Kafka and Brian Daboll have done a tremendous job putting the offensive line in position to succeed. Because if you're looking at true pass sets versus just pass blocking reps, the true pass sets are the plays that aren't the play action plays, aren't the screen passes, aren't the RPOs, anything other than that, just the one-on-ones. The Giants are struggling in those true pass sets where it's just, snap and drop back to throw. They're struggling. But in those true passing sets or in those non-true passing sets, they're doing a great job because they're getting those little buffers. And that just shows you that, first of all, the Giants are definitely taking a look at those kind of advanced stats and looking at it and saying, hey, true pass sets, we're struggling, so let's do less of those. Let's do more play action, more RPOs, more screen passes. And that's where the Giants are thriving. And they're doing much better in that facet of the game a lot of the times because you've got guys like Evan Neal, Andrew Thomas, Mark Lewinsky, they're known for being great run blockers. If they're run blocking in a pass protecting play, it just benefits them, and that's what the play action is setting up. So again, very smart coaching by the New York Giants offensive staff, and it's a very smart game plan that they've been implementing with Daniel Jones, and it's helped him out tremendously in terms of getting some pocket in front of him, just having a pocket, which he hasn't had in the past. So it's been great. The coaching staff is helping him a lot. But again, he's also just playing really smart football right now. He's not fumbling every week like he used to. He's not turning the ball over by any means. He's just playing clean, smart, winning football. And that's exactly what you need out of Daniel Jones with this team.
Absolutely. I mean, you kind of said it best in terms of those true pass sets. Those are the ones that are kind of interesting, right? I think they've only had 21 true pass sets. I believe I read. Maybe Dan Orlovsky said that. But the interesting thing, I think like 90% of their actual passing plays have been via screens, play action, RPOs. And it's funny because like you look back to last year and the year before that, Jason Garrett, a lot of true pass sets. They did not play a lot of play action. They did not run a lot of RPO screens, whatever. A lot of true pass sets, and the analytics would clearly say that it's not working. So do something different. And Jason Garrett just didn't budge. He was like, we're going to keep doing it until it works. Keep doing it until it works. And go figure, the freaking offense didn't move an inch. So now you're seeing an actual brain at the offensive coordinator position and Mike Kafka, and you're seeing Brian Dable and his good luck bald head. And they're like, okay, we know that's not working. We actually have a playbook that will supplement the weaknesses of this roster. If we don't want to do true pass sets, let's run a creative play action, get some RPOs involved. And the thing is, they add different wrinkles to the equation all the time. Specifically, you remember against the Chicago Bears, they're running play action all the time. They're getting Saquon Barkley into space. They're doing some really great things. And suddenly the Bears start to catch on. Okay, you know what? They're running a lot of play action. Let's wait for that to happen. Let's wait, see what happens, contain Daniel Jones, whatever it might be. And then suddenly you see Matt Breida in the mix. And you're like, wait a second, you have two running backs now. Then you're having Matt Breida run a jet sweep across the line of scrimmage. It's a fake jet sweep, then play action, and then Daniel Jones is running. It's like they're adding different wrinkles when defenses start to catch on. And that's just high level play calling, guys. They're not stopping at this is good enough. They're saying, no, we have an additional thing we're going to add to the mix. This is going to make the offense even more potent, even more efficient. And Daniel Jones is the one benefiting from that, right? He's the one that's actually seeing the production because of it. He went 21 for 27 last week. The 21 completions on 27 attempts. I think it's like, what is that, 80% success rate, something like that. It's tremendous, right? You're looking at just a really efficient quarterback because the play calling is allowing him to be, because they're saying, we know what your weakness is. Let's avoid that. Let's go and attack your strengths. You're fast. You have a really good play action. You sell it really well. You can run if you need to when you're actually not bad at throwing on the run either. How many times have we seen Daniel Jones throw on the run this year? Like a handful of times, a bunch of times. Whereas in the years past, they roll him out to the right. Everybody would condense. And then, okay, so many things are just popping into my head right now. Last year under Jason Garrett, when Daniel Jones would roll out to the right on those play action passes, how many times did we see like 5 receivers in the same vicinity? Like they're all within like a 5-yard radius of each other. What are they doing this year that's different? I'll tell you what they're doing. Instead of having all of the receivers run to the same spot, they're dragging those crossers away from him, right? So like you're seeing with Darius Slayton last week against the Packers, he was alone on the opposite side of the field, right? They didn't have all the receivers crossing into the same area. They had like 2 receivers crossing toward the right side where Daniel Jones was actually rolling out to, and then have Darius Slayton dragging to the other side. So they'd clear out all of those defenders, and DJ would have an easy open read where he could deliver an accurate pass because he's very accurate when nobody is around him and he has time in the pocket. And those rollouts create those play action. Like you said, it draws all of those defenders in. And if those defenders, if it's not a pass rusher, if it's a safety, if it's a linebacker, they are not initially blitzing him all the time because they know if they leave their spot, there's going to be a receiver there right there to get that pass. So they have to stay committed. They have to be balanced in that aspect. And it gives Daniel Jones more time in the pocket. So, those are just the different variables that I've at least witnessed and seen, and the differences from this year to last year, which are just quite, to be honest with you, mind-blowingly extreme, right? This is a totally different coaching system, a coaching scheme, brains that have actual cells working, they're firing. Whereas Jason Garrett's brain cells, I think, were just like napping. I don't even know what they were doing. But it's just tremendous to see that the Giants are looking and realizing that they have weaknesses, and they're saying, okay, you know what? We know what our weaknesses are. Let's not push those. Let's not push those buttons. Let's look at the strengths that we have. Daniel Jones is mobile. He's fast. He can do things in the running game. He's really accurate when he has time in the pocket. We have some really fast receivers like Darius Slayton who can be effective on those crossing routes. Saquon Barkley is a monster. He contains so much energy and so much spark. Opposing defenses have to allocate a substantial amount of attention to him, right? Every time he touches the ball, two linebackers and a safety are automatically watching him at all times. Those play action passes, both, one safety, strong safety, even you could say the free safety if it's a running play. Both linebackers are all looking at Saquon Barkley. So what does that do? It leaves Daniel Jones wide open in the backfield when he has the football, and it gives him time to process and scan the field. Daniel Jones's biggest weakness is that he is not good at scanning the field when he doesn't have a lot of time. You'll see other quarterbacks, Tom Brady, when he doesn't have that much time, he's like bam, 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 bam. He can get to his fourth read in like 10 milliseconds. Daniel Jones needs time to get through his reads, so like they're giving him that time. And I think that that's really resulting in a much more effective player. Ultimately, I'll say this. If the Giants have a good offensive line one day, a good pass blocking offensive line, I could see Daniel Jones becoming a franchise quarterback. It just is easier said than done, right? Like having a good OL is easier said than done. So, how do you think Daniel Jones can justify a contract extension for the future? Because right now, I think the O-line's got to gel more, because eventually teams will catch on to what the Giants are doing. Eventually, this isn't going to work as well as it has been. But that doesn't mean those weaknesses can't alleviate over time.
So I think to justify keeping him around for one more year on the franchise tag, he needs to keep the Giants winning games. Now, I know wins technically aren't a quarterback stat, but if you're playing well enough to keep your team in the games and they're going to continue winning, if the Giants end up making the playoffs this year, I'm down to give Daniel Jones the franchise tag and see if he can run it back next season. I'm okay with that. And that doesn't even prevent the Giants from going ahead and drafting a quarterback anyway. You can have Daniel Jones on a franchise tag and draft a quarterback if that's what the Giants really want to do. He can sit underneath Daniel Jones for a year. Daniel Jones will be a fifth-year veteran at that point. He can play a mentorship role. Or, worst case scenario, Daniel Jones has a breakout. You extend him, you trade the rookie. Or the rookie takes over for Daniel Jones and you trade Daniel Jones on the franchise tag or just let him go. There's definitely a lot of ways that the Giants can play this one out. But in terms of him kind of earning a contract, so it's a difference between earning the franchise tag, just giving him a one more year, that short leash, and then giving him that extension. There's a big difference between that. But the way that he earns that, he's going to have to start stuffing the stat sheet in some of these games. I need to see him start throwing a lot more touchdowns. He needs to show that he is a difference maker because, yes, right now he's helping the Giants win. He's playing winning football. He's not the reason why they're behind in games. He's not causing them to lose games. However, he's not necessarily putting the team on his back and carrying them to wins with magical 5-touchdown performances like a Patrick Mahomes or, any of these big name stars. So if we are going to talk about Daniel Jones taking that next level and really getting that big contract and payday for the long term, he does need to start playing like a true star rather than a good quarterback, because he is playing like a good quarterback and he deserves a franchise tag at the minimum if he continues this level of play. As long as this doesn't nosedive downhill and crash and burn, he's going to be, he's going to be here next year because he's playing well enough to be. But is he going to be here for the next 5 years? Now, I wouldn't say that after these 5 weeks. And if he continues to play at this level where he's on pace for like 10 touchdowns in a 17-game season, now, no, I don't think that he deserves a 5-year contract over that. But yes, franchise tag. Let's see him play again next year. Let's see him run it back with the same offensive coaching staff, the same head coach, the same offensive coordinator. Let's see if he can do this over again with an improved skill player position around him, more better receivers, please. I pray to God. Even improvements on the offensive line. I'd love to see Daniel Jones at least get another year, but I don't think there's anything he can do this season necessarily unless he just starts to tear it up, go for 5 touchdowns in some of these games with these backup receivers that he's playing with. Unless he does that, I don't really see him actually being able to earn a long-term contract in this season, but he's definitely on track to earn that franchise tag, run it back for one more year, and prove himself worthy of that big-term contract or big-time contract next season, which is what I'm looking forward to. Because, again, if he has a second year to grow with Brian Dable, Mike Kafka, and there is improved weapons around him, then we really might see, and I know we say it every year, but we really might see that big jump from Daniel Jones in terms of progression with that coaching staff and new weapons around him. Again, he's playing winning football right now. He's playing great. But in my opinion, he's playing well enough to get a short leash for one more year. He's going to have to turn it up to another level to really, convince me that I want to commit to him for the next half a decade.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty reasonable argument. From where I sit, I would say that I need to see a lot more in terms of just consistency. He's headed in the right direction. I'll say that right now. He's headed in the right direction, but there's still a long way to go before I can convince myself that he's going to be the future of this team. With that being said, I'm not going to give him a multi-year deal. If anything, I'm giving him a 1-year deal or franchise tagging him and letting him go one more year and then extending him, right? Like that's the most I'd be willing to do. Because right now, if you're following this season, I can't really commit to like 30 mil, $25 million a year over like a 3-year contract. I just don't think it's justifiable yet. I'd franchise tag him for what is it, like $22 million? Easy decision, in my opinion, like the easiest decision you could make. And then you have 1 more year of DJ. If he kills it, takes that big step forward, the offensive line takes a big step forward, you're in good shape, right? You're in really good shape, and you can extend him for a longer period of time, and you have a really solidified offensive line, and you're good. Like that's what the approach I would take right now. Like best case scenario, he kills it, you tag him, you keep developing him, and he turns into a very nice quarterback, and the Giants win games with him under helm. So that's kind of my take, guys. I'd love to hear your perspective below in the YouTube comments, your thoughts about him. If you're convinced that he could be something, I guess, special if he continues to develop the way that we've seen in the past 5 weeks. But again, we have 12 weeks left of football with him under helm. So there's a lot of games to play. We could see, I mean, the considering the fact that we've seen such tremendous growth over 5 weeks, who's to say that we can't see him double on top of that over the next 5 weeks and just continue to just mount that development and walk away from the season looking like the quarterback we all hoped he would be. He's alleviating some of those concerns, but it's mainly because the Giants are scheming around him so well, which is generally what all teams have to do. You know what I mean? Like, have to scheme around their quarterbacks and their strengths. But, some guys are better than others. Some guys are able to, make the most out of nothing, which, we've seen Josh Allen do. But again, he has a great team right now. Good offensive line, great receivers, a nice trio of running backs, good tight ends. Patrick Mahomes always has, good running game, decent offensive line, good receivers. So, the Giants don't really have that. So it's hard to really look at Daniel Jones and say this is the best that we've seen. I want to see Wan'Dale Robinson come back. I want to see Kadarius Toney get involved in some way and see if he can really start to be even more effective through the air. We know how good he is in the running game, but we got to see a little bit more in the passing game as well. So that's kind of my perspective, guys. But I'd love your opinions below in the YouTube comments, as always, on Daniel Jones. Appreciate all the love. Really nice win this past Sunday. We look ahead to the Baltimore Ravens in week 6. We'll start doing a little bit more breaking down of their team and taking a look at how we can beat them in the coming days. As always, make sure to like, subscribe. I'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Giants episode.